What's up, everybody? Welcome into our first live stream. Just wanted to get things a little started for us, and actually uh, wanted to give a brief update just kind of on why we've had so little content from me in the past. So I had a little problem, got a little hacked. What's up, everybody? Welcome. And basically, through that, lost access to some of my accounts. But we're back at it. We're going to try out a new format for our content. So we're coming at you with some live streams. So with that, I wanted this to kind of be a more regular thing, though I don't know exactly the time frame when I'm going to be doing it. So with that being said, I advise us to like, subscribe, turn on notifications. That way you can join in anytime I do end up having something to bring to you. So we're going to get started today. Going to wrap up just with a few discussions regarding some of what's been discussed going around the league a little bit before kickoff happened today. So with that, we're going to start off looking at some criticism the league's received. So first, it's really about the shop. And I understand merchandise. We are strong in our fandom. We want to know and represent our team and give the best that we can. That way, our team not only looks stronger on TV, but also looks stronger and the fandom grows. Because people wearing those shirts, I get it. First time someone's going to be able to see it on the street, things like that, and you can build your fan base from things like that. But one thing we do know, so essentially, Repoll got some criticism from our boy James here about the AI use in his models for the t-shirts, different things like that. I get it. I do get it. AI slop, I get it. But man's busy, and they're trying to reduce costs. So at least he's engaging, and he's giving us that feedback. So it's better to hear from him to not, and that interaction is good. But I do respect the criticism of using so much AI. Next, I wanted to look at some more criticism we got regarding the shop. And this really kind of is tied to this, really started over this, like the way the image on the website and the shop is showing these things and the way they're arriving. So to a degree, so this is what was promised. As you can see here, this logo football mat, and this is essentially what was delivered. So that's very different. So I can understand the criticism, and I get it. And that really does arise some questions because this is much different than this football mat. And I get it. Maybe designs changed, and this was an initial design to start those sales. But ultimately, hard to say exactly what's going on there. But I understand the criticism, and people are talking about it. There is a good discussion on all of these. So it does arise questions, is this something that we can expect season long? Are we getting these things fixed, or what's going on here? Because people are calling this incompetently run. I get it. But, we want to see good products available to the fandom. So when we are looking at mats like this, I get not what was promised, but not the worst thing. So there is some opportunity, I think, for the league ahead on that front. Then we'll look at basically some criticism over why hats, shirts, and things like that have not been very commonly shown, different things like that, and why they're not available. And basically, people are accusing them of putting in zero effort, and I understand why. I get it. I do understand. But at the same time, at what point are we going to, give them a little bit of leeway? And I understand new team fans, new cities, these people want to show their fandom, so it can be frustrating, especially when it comes to shops, especially when it's like the hats and different things, because that's what people really want to wear. But one thing you also need to understand is those stocks of those hats, those jerseys, everything like that is going to the stadium first. That way the fans, when they do show up, have something they can purchase. So I'd expect them to be selling a lot of different things, especially as they come to kickoff. But next, I wanted to talk about, because, while there is frustration, there is a lot of excitement ramping up for the league. And with that, we do have a lot of opportunity. They've been bringing in partnerships. different sort of sponsors, everything like that. And those really, really are huge for the league. So they brought in Body Armor. This was kind of recent, last week, and they got the tickets on sale. So not only bring the fans into it, but also kind of get everybody more excited. Body Armor's buying in. Not only is Body Armor buying in, we've got our colleges buying in. So you can see here, Big 12 athletes, they're all into it. And that sort of thing is really huge for the league because it's big for the schools and big for everyone participating. Not only bring the fans into it, but sorry about that. So not only is it the colleges, but also they've got a sportsbook partner now. So we got DraftKings as the official sports betting and daily fantasy sports partner for the UFL. So really, really going in strong. And this only got announced today. So as the games approach, I bet we're going to start seeing more promotions regarding DraftKings, but ultimately a good opportunity for the league. And we got John Gruden kind of shouting us out. So, who can complain about that? I'll say that much. Next, I wanted to turn in and give us a look at 2026. What do we have ahead? That sort of thing. So we've got kickoff today, just in about an hour or so. So let's give a look at each team. So first, we'll start with the Birmingham Stallions. And they really are the champion standard. And where this really is going to come from, not only their history, but A.J. McCarron. This man wins championships in the state of Alabama, and I expect him to do just that. But as we're seeing this, there is some questions that arise about the team, how it's been assembled, but I do expect them to really possibly get back to this three-peat legacy and that level of play that they used to once have. But then when we were looking at that offense, Dawood Davis, dangerous. Deion Kane, dangerous. John Ross, dangerous. So I really, really expect them to be a very dangerous offense. But the question is, can the whole team come together and hold out through these games? Next, let's look at the Aviators. And, what's really exciting here is Ted Ginn Jr. is back in the city where he made his name, from his history with Ohio State, and ultimately him going against the Orlando Storm. Tough matchup, given that it's Coach Beck, but ultimately he should be able to lead a competitive team. And where I think he'll really do well is capturing that fan base and keeping them engaged in the game as it goes this season, and really bringing the state of Ohio into the league, at least into the fandom. But where they will be playing well is that defense. So look out for them. But ultimately, I think they may be in for a tough week. But we'll see how that all plays out. Next for the Dallas Renegades. The man that needs no introduction, the Spring King, Luis Perez. Going to do well this year, as he's done every year in the past, so we can expect that. But the real question is how will the rest of the team be around him? And I would say offensively, I expect them possibly to be sluggish in the beginning, but ultimately I expect them to do as good, if not better, than they did last year. And when it comes to their defense, Taco Charlton, come on now. I think they'll do really well. I think that's going to be the where their game is made, and then their offense will kind of be what gives them that edge to win the game. But ultimately, their defense is what's going to keep them in every single week competitive matchups. So for Houston, that week one could be tough for Houston, could also be tough for Dallas. So we'll see how it is. But ultimately, we'll get a look at who might be the king of Texas for 2026. DC Defenders, champion. This is a champion team back in the action. Jordan Ta'amu back in as quarterback, ultimately are the league's MVP. I expect him to do very well. I expect the whole team to do very well. They got their coach back from last year, so ultimately one of the better teams coming into 2026. And I really do expect them to be, as they say, one of the league's premier teams. And their week one matchup in the Battle Dome to take on St. Louis, come on now. You can't ask for a better game week one. Next, let's look at the Houston Gamblers. So, boom or bust season. This is not just the offense, definitely the season. Kevin Sumlin is back as the Gamblers head coach, but there is that question at quarterback. Who is it going to be? They, are kind of splitting some time. So ultimately, that could be a weakness for the team. They do have some offensive weapons, but the question will be, can it all come together? And that's where I think they may be a late bloomer, let's say, for this year. But I do like the fact that last year they had a good defense, so that should be coming back. And it's really they will keep them in the game. They're going to keep the games close. They're going to give the offensive chance. But if that consistency is not there at quarterback, ultimately we could see a lot of problems and issues for them this season. Then the Louisville Kings kicking it off this year. They've got home field advantage. Quite an exciting time for them. They also got some Thursday night football games coming in. And they really are an offensive weapon. And it starts with the quarterback, Jason Bean. People wanted to see him out there last year, and I think this year you'll really get to see what he has to offer. Lots of firepower and a wonderful offense. So everyone around there is going to hopefully be a weapon for him, and thus they can probably put up a good amount of points every week. So it'll be interesting to see how they do tonight, specifically if they're able to put up points on the Birmingham Stallions. We'll see if it's a low-scoring game, but I do worry what might be in store for them. But I believe in Chris Redman. So he and the city, I think, will come together, and I think there will be a good opportunity for them this year. Then the Orlando Storm. So really, really excited that Florida got a team and they're now in the fray. But since they're back in, it's their inaugural season. We're not too sure how it is, but I do trust Coach Beck. He was great in St. Louis. I know he's not been able to win a championship, but look at this record, 22-10. They'll be back in the playoffs, I'd expect, but I don't know that I guarantee that at this time. But with him coming to Orlando, he does kind of bring the basis of that team that he had in the Battlehawks, or at least what he could get. So I do think he will do very well this year. I'm worried exactly how the team will come together, but I do think it will work out for him. And I think it'll be a competitive week every single week if you're playing the Storm. Then the Battlehawks, and big thing here, home field advantage. The Battle Dome, 30,000 fans. I expect us to cross that tomorrow's game, maybe even set the record. But we'll see how that all plays out. They do have new coach. Offense should be slightly different, so I'm really, really interested to see how Brandon Silvers does. I want to see, he's played in the league a few times, and I really think that if they can pull it together, let's say week 1, they beat the defending champs. That's going to send shockwaves all across the league. So that does arise some questions. Next. So seeing as we've kind of looked at the teams, they are looking pretty good. Every team is assembled, and I think they'll all be competitive. I wanted to look at this ranking, compliments of Greg Parks over at the News Hub for the UFL. So looking at this, we'll start off, and he ranks basically every team. So we'll just kind of look at the highlights and maybe the lowlights. So for our defensive line, Dallas Renegades. I'm telling you, they're going to be in every single game. They've got an amazing front four, let's say, and Taco Charlton, come on now. He will literally wreck games. So I expect them to be possibly the most dominant offense in the league. What does shock me, though, is the defensive DC Defenders down here at number 3. They had an amazing defense last year. They've retained a lot of that talent. So I'm surprised they're not in that 2 ranking, but I do respect the process. Next, let's look at the bottom rank. So the Louisville Kings, this is what has me worried. So, really good offense, but if that defense is, as they say, worse in the league, they could be in for a very long season. And especially tonight, as that game kicks off, what's going to happen with that defense? Are they going to be, railroaded? What's going to happen? We'll see what happens. But I do worry. So, linebackers. Renegades back again. That's going to be a consistency across all of the defense. They've got a very good defense coming into the season. But the Gamblers in there with Anthony Hines III, I do think that will be something to see how that plays out, because if their linebackers can come in, stop a run, stop a pass, they could be really take some pressure off that defensive backfield and enable them to really have some unique defenses that could be tough to play against. Looking at linebackers, we got the Columbus Aviators. So do feel bad for them, but ultimately everyone 5 and down, I think it's going to be a pretty close match between their linebackers, but I do think all of them will put up a fight, though there could be some unique weaknesses, whether it be, taking interceptions or on the run, but ultimately I expect them all to do their best. So now this is, I would say, one of the rankings I agree with most on the defensive back. So the St. Louis Battlehawks, they'll be good. We've got some good talent they picked up from some of the teams that were lost. Next one for me, the Houston Gamblers. A wonderful team last spring, and ultimately they were very good. They did have a bit of a change throughout the last year, but I expect them to be very competitive when it comes to the defensive backfield. Continuing our look, Columbus Aviators. Down here again, I worry a lot about this. They had the bones from Michigan, and they were a very good team. So it is interesting to see them so low on the listing, but ultimately I think you'll see them start to rise on this list as the season goes on. Then our special teams. So Matt McCrane was almost Jake Bates' backup at a time with the Lions. This man is basically NFL talent, so I am not surprised to see the defenders as leading this rank. Then we've got the Birmingham Stallions. If you do not know, their kicker last year was the starting kicker for the Rams this year, and they did very, very good well. So Harrison Mevis here did very good. I expect their kicker, whoever it is this year, to be quite competitive. Though I worry for the Renegades, if you have a very good defense, what's going to happen if you don't have the special teams to bring it together. So we'll see how things go. But ultimately, I do expect the special teams to be a very impactful part of the games of the season. So when we look at the final tally they got here, DC Defenders leading the rankings. Not exactly, kind of more in the bottom. And then we've got the Louisville Kings doing pretty well with 52 points. So it's interesting to see, those that are ranking against Louisville Kings might be the worst team in the league. I don't know that I'd agree with that. But if we look at this, we've got the DC Defenders, best team in the league. I agree with that. Birmingham Stallions is the second best. That's where I might arise some questions. But if we're just going off the defense and special teams, I can agree with that. Battlehawks, agree with this placement. Renegades, I feel, should be a little bit higher, but I can understand the special teams' weaknesses. Orlando Storm, probably fair ranking. And then the Gamblers, this is where I think they are too low on this ranking, and I think they do deserve a little more respect when it comes to their defense, because that was, their saving grace last year. The Aviators, probably justified, but the Louisville Kings, this is something concerning. And we'll see how it plays out tonight, but ultimately, depending on how this goes, could be a long night for our Louisville fans. But given that ranking, I wanted to give you my preseason tiers. So ultimately, we have not seen the talent on the field, so take these all with a grain of salt. But ultimately, just wanted to lay it out for us to see my perspective. So starting off, we've got the Houston Gamblers. They could be better, and this is where it really comes down to the offense. I'm worried how it might turn out for them, but given their defense, I think they can stay in the games. Next, we got the Stallions, and this is really a concern of how the team comes together. Quarterback, there are questions. There was a reason he was a backup the last few years, but it does make us wonder, is this going to be a dark horse for the team? Though ultimately, everyone has high expectations for the Stallions, and given the coaching, I really don't. I understand why the expectations are so high. And the Kings, this is where I am concerned about their defense, and I think any fan should be. We'll see how they play tonight, but ultimately, if they are not competitive on defense, it could be a very long season for them because it's all going to be on their offense. And while it is dangerous, that could be a very long season trying to put up 30, 40 points every single week with no defensive help, because you need at least 1 or 2 stops a game to be winning games in this league. Then we've got the Battlehawks, and they are balling. This is the thing about the team, is that offense, and it's more about that home field advantage. So 5 games this season, they're going to have that home field advantage, and if you're playing them there, you're going to realize what that feels like. So it's going to mess with your game. You're not going to be able to hear each other. There will be errors, and that really can help out a team. And then Coach Beck, really going to lead the Storm. I think they'll be a very competitive team. You're going to see at least his coaching shine through, and with that, you can be promised a good game at least. The Aviators. This is really tied to their bones being the Michigan Panthers. They took a lot of that talent, and that team, if you do not recall, was in the championship and almost won. And a lot of that was on their quarterback, so I can understand that criticism. But I do expect them to be a very competitive team, even if their defense may have some weaknesses. But who's almost great? Well, that's going to be our Renegades. The defense is very good. Quarterback is a very consistent talent within spring football, and I really think they will be off to a very good start this year, especially if they can win a couple games in the early running. Then, of course, our supreme, the DC Defenders, arguably the best team in spring football. They retained a lot of that talent from the last season, and through what they've been able to do, they've really, really set the standard in spring football. Their home games are an experience. When they travel, they are dominating, shutting up opposing fan bases, and I really think they are a great, great team, so I'd look out for them this year. Now that we've kind of got my tiers out of the way, though, I wanted to start looking at what we have ahead for kickoff. It's going to be an awesome weekend. So we've got a Friday night football game. We'll have our Saturday starter, and then our Saturday seconds, and then a Sunday showdown. So really should be a good opportunity for us fans to kind of see what the league has to offer this year. But when we look at the home fan bases, so Louisville, that's sold out. So I am very excited to see how that looks tonight, and it should be a good opportunity for everyone that's there. Though if you're the Stallions, could be tough, but ultimately we'll see kind of the battle of the horses here. Then for our Saturday starter, that's our game of the week. This is going to be a wonderful matchup, the DC Defenders against the Battlehawks. It's a competitive game every single time it's played, every year, and ultimately I look forward to seeing how the new Battlehawks match up with the champion Defenders. Then for our Saturday seconds, we've got the Battle for Texas, let's call it, which will be the Renegades versus the Gamblers. I expect this to be a low-scoring game. Big thing here is if that offense is weak, the Renegades are going to take advantage of it. So it could be a tough one to watch, but hopefully we're able to see a nice competitive game. Then in our Sunday showdown, another night game for us. So new teams. It'll be really a test of Coach Beck. How has he brought his team together? But with the Aviators, we really want to see what does the team have to offer. Is it coming together? Is that the bones of the Panthers going to be as competitive as they were last year? How does that all work out together? But given that, I think we should have a very good time this year. So let's look at that game of the week as we had. So DC facing St. Louis. It is the biggest rivalry in the UFL and arguably the only one, as the Captain Traveler says. So I am excited to see how that goes. The stadium will be filled. As you can see here, they're ready to play. This is something that if you're in DC or if you're in St. Louis, ultimately, though, this is the game you're looking forward to. It's your chance to knock off the champs, and you can be very competitive. Coach is looking good. He's ready. It should be a very, very good matchup. So that game, I think we should all be looking forward to. So when we look at our kickoff times, tonight, 8 p.m., I really expect a good show out of the league today. And then we got an ESPN game tomorrow. So that's going to be our game of the week, 12 p.m. Make sure we're tuning in for that. Then for that Battle for Texas, that's going to be a 4 p.m. game on Fox. So that should be a good one, depending on the Gamblers' offense. But we'll see how they match up against that Renegade defense. Then for the final game of the week, which will be a Sunday night game. That's an 8 p.m. game at Orlando. So the Aviators will travel down to Florida. We'll see how they handle the heat, but I do expect this to be a very good matchup. So 2 night games this week, very good for us fans. So it'll be a good experience. We'll see how packed the rest of these games are. I expect, Louisville sold out. St. Louis, going to be probably 30,000 fans or more. I do have questions about Dallas, but I do expect Orlando to really show out. So we should be in for a very good visual experience. But let's preview the game tonight. So we've got the Birmingham Stallions. They'll be visiting the Louisville Kings. So we've got a few storylines to watch. So we're just going to run through them and really see what we have to offer. So we've got new faces, new sidelines, new coaches, Chris Redmond, AJ McCarron. It's very interesting to see. They do have that high-level football experience, but we do have some championship experience in Coach McCarron. So I expect that possibly to give them an edge, but Coach Redmond does have the city behind him, so expect the fan base to be on their side. Offensive power on both sides, so true. Look for a high-scoring game, potentially, but really the defense could make the difference here because it's all going to come down to how many stops can the defenses get. Then we got the X factor. So, Jason Bean, if he lights the sky tonight, look for him to be an MVP favorite because he is a dynamic player. Then Louisville, they're going to use that mobility. So really it's going to come down to that Birmingham defense. Can they stop them? Can they get an interception? Can they get a takeaway? But we'll see how that goes. Matt Corral, going to be some questions around him. He's had a lot of time in Birmingham. How has the offense changed? How has he adapted to that? Those are questions we want to see the answers to. Then the defensive edge, because really, the questions are on the defense. The Kings really got a lot of questions. So if Birmingham can show out, get a few stops, they could really make a good case for them to be one of the best defenses in the league. But we'll see how that all turns out tonight. Home field advantage. This is a packed Lynn family field. So I think that will really have an impact on this game. Most of the time, a lot of these games, at least in the past, the Stallions have been playing, they're empty stadiums. So how are they going to play when you got 20,000 fans screaming at you? That's something we'll really look to see. But, a little prediction for them. But it's always unpredictable. But they do think that maybe Birmingham will take it home. And I think that's probably likely, but we'll see exactly how that turns out for them today. So, as we said, we're looking at this Friday Night Lights. This is the best product that spring football has to offer, so I think we should all be in for a very, very good experience. Though there is a lot of questions for the quarterback. But we'll see how everything turns out. Their offense in Louisville is really going to keep them in this game. So let's look at just kind of some of the promotion. What has the word been going around leading up to kickoff? And let's just say the Twitter's been very active. We got SportsCenter. They're doing some coverage, getting ready. This is them on the way to the game. Then we've also got, folks on location. People are excited for this, and it's very, very good. Look at this. We got some fans already, so you're starting to see a lot of this come together. You got some posts from Repol, some other, video promotion, getting everybody fired up pretty much. Teams on it as well. So we'll see if Matt Corral can really bring it back to this time in his playing ability. So I do look forward to him. But look at the mayor, Craig Greenberg, Louisville mayor. They are pumped for the Kings, and I expect the city to really show out for the team tonight and that have a big impact on the game tonight. Some promos, they're ready for this game. This is going to be a very exciting time. I think the city will show out. And as I kind of said earlier, kind of with some of the promotion, you've really got the colleges leaning in. This is good for their recruiting, showing that there is a future for some of their players, whether they make it into the NFL or not. But across from that, really, really, it's fired up. We're almost to kickoff. It's going to be a good time tonight. I did see on that carrying on from that fact of them getting that betting partnership with the sports books. They do got their odds out for the game. So we'll take a look at those real quick. So everybody's thinking the Stallions are winning in this game tonight. Looking like Defenders probably are the favorites for tomorrow's game, though I wouldn't be surprised if there is some late money coming for St. Louis. Then the Gamblers and Renegades, no surprise here. I'd say these are fair lines. And then the Aviator Storm, fair lines as well. Not a lot of difference there. But an interesting storyline that's kind of arose as we're leading up to kickoff is this favorite to win the championship. And the Stallions are the favorite right now. They did win 3 times before, but it is a question, can they get back to that level? So they're sitting about 348 right now. So good odds, but I do like my Defenders at 360. Though, depending on how things go this week, we might see one of these teams down here with over 500 in odds, make a rise or run to some better odds. But now that we're finishing up now, I just wanted to look ahead. If the Stallions are going to be those champions, when does it happen? Well, honestly, I think they could probably go undefeated until week 5, and they'll really have a challenge in DC. But then after that, they could have, I'm not going to say a cakewalk to the playoffs, but ultimately they control their path. Week 5 is going to be tough for them, but they have nothing but winnable games ahead of them. Though I do think you can see some of these other teams, some of our new teams, possibly make a run in the playoffs as well. So with that, we are in for a good season, so I'm looking forward to how tonight goes. So I encourage everyone to enjoy the game tonight, and we'll be coming back at you later on after game with a little bit of a nightcap. Look over the stats, kind of give us some reflections, and see exactly what we might have in store for tomorrow. So otherwise, I hope you guys enjoy the game tonight, and hope that you join me later on this evening for our nightcap. But if not, have a wonderful weekend, and I appreciate you tuning in tonight.